Yo, what's good guys? It's Turtle from Hardcore Cards on Instagram with yet again another Pendulum takeover on Kyberlord's YouTube channel. This time it is pretty much a pure Pendulum Magician deck build. I say pure, it's like you got to take it with a grain of salt because obviously there is other little engines in there, but this is as pure as Pendulum Magicians are going to be, I believe, with the current format with Electromite Band, no Astrograph, that kind of thing. So yeah, this is the deck list. The idea of it is you turbo out Dagda, so similar to how you would have turboed out Electromite when Electromite was legal. You're doing exactly the same except from your turboing out Dagda. And then what Dagda does, once you then activate another card, so it can be a scale, for example, it'll then trigger Dagda to set Artifact Scythe from your deck to your spell and trap zone, and then on your opponent's turn you'd pop that set Scythe with a Tornado Dragon. And obviously Pendulum Magicians can turbo out rank 4, so getting to a Tornado Dragon is no issue at all. I absolutely love Pendulum Magicians. Don't get me wrong, they definitely work better as an engine, but I do believe this is possibly, if you're going to play a pure-ish Pendulum Magician build, this is possibly the way to go. I'd love to see what your thoughts are at the end of this video, but yeah, I have great fun using all Pendulums, and this is another one of my absolute favourites. So, without further ado, we will get started.
Stardust, Black Rose, no hope, life low. Alright, I'm set, I got my deck. I'm about to head to my homie crib next. I got a brand new combo with some tricks. I'm about to burn them for 8,000 quick. Got it on standby so you can't draw. Main face ain't shit, go to your school face, that mean you lost. That's how it be.
So, starting us off for the monsters, we of course have the actual Pendulum Magicians. It wouldn't be a Pendulum Magician build without the Pendulum Magicians. And as you can guess, this is a fairly large package. So we've got the 3 Harmonizing, 2 Purple Poison, the 2 Oath Dragon, then we've got 1 Black Fang, 1 Celestial, 1 Double Iris, maybe back at 3 soon, 1 Zhang Shay, and of course the 1 Time Gazer. So that is our Pendulum Magician package. Like I said, it is a fairly large one. It is a Pendulum Magician pure can be build. So yeah, we do have a large one. Not much to say about these, not much changes other than obviously Double Iris is in here now. We do run the trap, so Double Iris is a nice little pop. If you have Tornado Dragon on field and you haven't used Pendulum Call, you can then use Tornado on your own turn to pop the Double Iris to get the trap, and then on your opponent's turn, use Tornado to pop the Scythe. So yeah, there is that option. Zhang Shay is a new one to the deck, so it is a level 7, which is the main reason we run it, because we run the Dark Worm package, so of course we have the Gate, and obviously the Gate is a level 7, so you can easily make Otto's Absolute Dragon, which then obviously goes into Otto's Vortex Dragon. And not only that, Zhang Shay I have found very handy. Just honestly, sometimes you just need a Pendulum Summon out, a big beater, and Zhang Shay's got a nice 2,500 attack points there, so yeah, that does come up. Oath and Purple Poison, we run 2 of each because this deck does lack a few low scales, and that is something I might play around with. There is an awful lot of high scales in the deck and not many low scales, so yeah, I do want to perhaps look at that, maybe changing it up a bit. I thought about like Magical Abductor, which I will share what I would cut possibly to try out Magical Abductor in the deck, but they do work perfectly fine. Oath Dragon is actually really, really good. It recycles your Pendulum Magicians to your hand, so you've got extra card advantage in hand as well as obviously in the extra deck. And if it does get special summoned, you can recycle Pendulum Magicians from the graveyard as well as Otto's Revolution, which we do play as well. So that is the Pendulum Magicians. Not much introduction is needed for these really. They're all quite self-explanatory. Anyone who's played Pendulum Magicians know what they do. Then, of course, you saw the Time Gazer, so we do run the other low-key Pendulum Magician, which is Chronograph Sorcerer. Obviously, the main use for Chronograph is, of course, it pops itself in scale to special summon Time Gazer, or you can place Time Gazer in the scale, which I have done quite regularly. It's quite nice to have that option, especially if you've already got enough materials on board to turbo out Dagda. You might want to use Chronograph to put the Time Gazer into your scale. It's important you try and get Time Gazer out of the deck as quickly as possible, in my opinion as well. You don't really want to draw it late game, because it does suck a bit late game, but certainly Chronograph does pull its weight, and obviously it is a level 6, and again, it's a fairly big beater, and being level 6 will come up as well later on in the deck profile. Then we do run Abyss Actor, Curtain Raiser at 3. Again, just another special summon, easy special summon, to just the standard stuff which we would normally do for Electromite, but this time obviously Dagda. So another Curtain Raiser, if you control no monsters, put it in your scale and then special summon it from scale. Yeah, not much else to say about that. It's level 4 as well, which is also very handy, and a dark. Then I said earlier about the Dark Worm package. We do run, of course, just 2 Dark Worm and the 1 Gate 0. Pendulum Call Dark Worm is just so broken, and if you're running a Pendulum Magician package with Pendulum Call, you just have to run Dark Worm because it's such a good combo. And of course, with the Dark Worm package, we do of course run the free Otto's Revolution Dragon. This worked absolutely perfectly. It's quite nice. If you've got Dark Worm in your extra deck, you can send it back to the deck with Otto's Vortex negate effect. So if you do then draw into another Revolution, it's not necessarily dead. And not only that, Otto's Revolution scale effect is still very, very handy, especially for late game. Right. Then the one non-pendulum monster, and the last one of the deck, or the last one for the monsters, should I say, is of course Artifact Scythe. Obviously, don't get me wrong, it is a bit of a pain if you draw into it or open it. And don't get me wrong, I have opened it an awful lot as well. Like, it's a one-of, but you can guarantee you'll always open your bad one-ofs. And unfortunately, Scythe does do that. I mean, the only good thing about Scythe, obviously you can set it from your hand. It's not the end of the world, but you would prefer your hand to be loaded with pendulum stuff, you know? So yeah, you would definitely rather search it from deck with Dagda, but if it happens to us all, if it's in your hand, it's in your hand. There's nothing we can do. So you just play on with it. But that is it for the monsters. So stay tuned and we will get to the spells. Right, so for the spells, we of course have the free Pendulum Call and the free Duelist Alliance. I mean, absolutely broken. You need to see your Pendulum Magicians. You need to see whatever ones you need to see it. So Duelist Alliance can search Pendulum Call. Duelist Alliance can also search your Trap card, your Time Pendulum Graph, or it can search Double Iris as well, which is a bit random, but it can search Double Iris as well. So it's just so good for the deck. And then Pendulum Call, obviously, Pendulum Call, discard a card. Ideally, you want discards Dark Worm at this point, and then search whatever 2 Pendulum Magicians you want from deck to hand. I mean, it's absolutely broken. It does have a bit of a downside. It does sort of kind of clash a bit with Double Iris, so you can't really, if you've used Pendulum Call, you can't then pop your Double Iris to search the trap that way. And that's the other reason why we don't play Wisdom Eye as well, because Wisdom Eye does clash with Pendulum Call as well. But in my opinion, Pendulum Call is just too good to ignore. I was toying around with playing perhaps the Star Pendulum Graph with Wisdom Eye, but honestly, Pendulum Call is just so good. Yeah, like I said, Pendulum Call Dark Worm is honestly so good. It does suck if you get it, if Pendulum Call does get ashed, but if you have discarded a Dark Worm, it's at least you get some value from it, and that's the main thing. Then for the draw power, we run 2 Desires, 3 Allure of Darkness, and the 1 Upstart. So I know what people are going to say in the comments. 2 Desires is all kinds of wrong. You should not be playing 2. It's either 3 or nothing. But I must admit, I love and hate Desires so much, and in my personal experience, 2 Desires has worked absolutely fine for me. Obviously, this deck does run one-ofs, as in Scythe and Time Gazer, so you really don't want to banish them copies, as well as like your Gate 0, obviously that's a one-of, and also Zhank Shay Magician. Obviously Zhank Shay and Gate 0 are what makes Absolute Dragon to go into Vortex, and you don't really want to banish those. And the deck has a lot of search power anyway, so like the Desires on top of that is kind of like extra, if that makes sense. So that's why I only run the 2. I mean, if we see it late game, it's perfect. If we don't open it, that's fine as well, you know what I mean? So yeah, honestly, 2 Desires, yeah, I know I'm going to get flamed in the comments, but honestly, 2 Desires works for me, you know. Upstart, this probably should be the 3rd Desires, what people say, but yeah, we're playing the 1 Upstart anyway. And 3 Allure, because most of the deck is dark, so yeah, why wouldn't you play 3 Allure? I meant to say as well with the monsters, we're going back to Zhang Shay Magician. It also is a negate. It negates light monsters, which actually does come up very often because Zeus happens to be a light. So yeah, so that's come up an awful lot for me as well, where they've summoned Zeus, and I thought, you know what, I'll pendulum summon out Zhang Shay, and Zeus will activate its effect and I'll negate it. So yeah, it does come up as well. Then we do play the Foolish Burial and the One Dragon Shrine. Now these are the two cards I potentially would cut for a couple of Magical Abductors to see how it goes. When I've been playing this deck, they very rarely come up. I mean, ideally you probably want, like I said, you want to ditch Darkworm to the grave with Pendulum Call anyway. It's tricky. It sort of swings and roundabouts as such, because obviously if you don't see a Pendulum Call, and the only way to get a Darkworm to grave is via a Foolish Burial or a Dragon Shrine, you're kind of happy to see it. But it's a tricky one. Like I'm going to try out Magical Abductor just because obviously Magical Abductor could potentially be another way to search a Darkworm for then Pendulum Call Darkworm to be live. So yeah, I'm definitely going to try it out. But these two are definitely the cards I would cut for Magical Abductor. And then for the final card of the deck profile, the one trap, which is the Time Pendulum Graph. Time Pendulum Graph with, once you've used Pendulum Call on your turn, is actually so broken. So because Pendulum Call stops your scales getting destroyed on not only your turn, but also your opponent's turn as well when you've used it, Time Pendulum Graph is effectively a destroy and a send on your opponent's turn. And that is just so good. And like I said, it can be searched with Duelist Alliance. Obviously, it can be searched with Double Iris if you need to. And yeah, it's just so good. Like, it's... I kind of want to build a build round Time Pendulum Graph, but I do feel Double Iris needs to come back to free for that. So if Double Iris does come back to free, maybe you'll see another Pendulum Magician deck profile where we've maxed out on Time Pendulum Graph, and yeah, we'll see where it goes. But for now, it's just the one of. It's a nice one of. Yeah, and it's so good. But that is it for the main deck though, guys. So stay tuned and we will get to the extra deck. Right, so for the final bit of the deck list, we of course have the extra deck. So starting us off with the links, we of course have Artifact, Electromite Dagda, Selene, Queen of the Magicians, Decode Talker, Appaloosa, and Access Code. So yeah, the idea is the Turbo Out Dagda. Dagda sets the Scythe, and then once you've done your shenanigans, you can then link up. So ideally you'll have like an Otto's Absolute on field. So you can then link Dagda and Absolute into, say, a Decode Talker, which works very well in the deck because Scythe, when special summoned to the field, you can special summon under an arrow Decode points to, and so it's another potential negate. Or, which you do usually have, that extra little card sitting on the field. You can just go Dagda, Absolute, and the extra monster into an Appaloosa for free materials, which, yeah, obviously it's a free monster negates in one there, so yeah, why wouldn't you? Selene is just so good with Access Code. So good. It's so good for late game. So why wouldn't you run it? Obviously, I do understand though, guys, this is a fairly budget list apart from the Access Code. So if you haven't got the funds for the Access Code, which is completely understandable, Boral Sword Dragon is more than a better replacement for it. The idea of Access Code is to literally see a game out and get the OTK in, and that's exactly what Boral Sword does at the end of the day. So yeah, Boral Sword would be a perfect replacement. The only difference is, obviously, Access Code can be made with 2 effect monsters, which is why it works so well with Selene, whereas Boral Sword is 3+ effect monsters, I believe. So yeah, but it'll work just as well. It's just not as consistent with Selene, if that makes sense. So then that comes on to the Synchros. So we've got the Borreload Savage Dragon, the Ignister, and F.A. Dawn Dragster. So Borreload Savage, obviously if you have linked Dagda away, Harmonising easily makes Borreload Savage, and then you can equip the Dagda to it for another couple of negates there. Ignister, I love Ignister. I'm so happy it's back at free. If you might have caught it, but I did actually release a Pendulum Magician Draco Slayer list on Kybelord's YouTube channel, which uses all 3 Ignister, and I absolutely love that build. Definitely go and check that out. But yeah, unfortunately, there's just not the space for 3 in this list, so we just run the 1. But it's still so good at getting rid of problem monsters. And works really well with the Pendulum Magicians, popping like, say, Purple Poison to get that extra pop on field, that kind of thing. or even popping double Iris, of course, to get search for the trap. So yeah, that works very, very well. Then Dawn Dragster, something we haven't seen for a while in Pendulums, but we can make a level 7 synchro and with time gaze and harmonizing, so I thought Dawn Dragster is probably the best way to go. It's another negate. If I'm honest, last tournament I played this deck, I didn't go into Dawn Dragster once, I've got to be honest. So it's certainly a flex spot you could change up for something else. Right, then we come on to the XCs. So of course we've got Tornado Dragon, the main one of the deck, Abyss Dweller, Time Star Magician, Supreme King Dark Rebellion, Naruto, and of course Otto's Absolute. So yeah, Tornado is the main one you'll go into. You'll be popping your Scythe on your opponent's turn to lock your opponent from summoning from the extra deck, which is so good. Dweller is obviously an option. Dweller is basically instant win against any deck which relies on graveyard. Time Star's a bit of a funny one. We don't utilise Time Star as much in this list, but it does still come up. So if you know what your opponent is playing and you know they can't OTK, you might want to just get set up for next turn, and Time Star does that quite nicely, just loading your hand up with Pendulum Magicians. And not only that, Time Star with, say, Pearl Poison in the back row can go up to a 3600 beta and protect that Pearl Poison at the same time, so you don't lose out on your scale. Dark Rebellion, I love Dark Rebellion. I've won so many games of Dark Rebellion, and I've said in my previous deck lists, if I can run Dark Rebellion, I will run it. I just absolutely love that card. Naruto's rank 6, which requires 2 level 6 spellcasters, which Oath and Chronograph both happen to be, and it negates spell and traps, so yeah, it's just really good, isn't it? Just another negate. And then, of course, Otto's Absolute, which is what you want to aim for with Jank Shay and Supreme King Gate 0. Because once that's sent to the grave, so you can link it off, once it's sent to the grave, you can then special summon out Otto's Vortex Dragon, which is so good. It's such a good Omni negate, and yeah, I absolutely love Vortex. And Vortex is the last card in the extra deck. Obviously, one thing you have got to remember with Vortex, you do have to have a card, a Pendulum Monster, should I say, in your extra deck, so you can shuffle it back into your deck. And ideally, you probably want to send back a Dark Worm, just so if you then draw into an Otto's Revolution Dragon late game, that Otto's Revolution isn't dead in your hand. You can then search out a Dark Worm. But yeah, that is it for the deck profile, guys. So profile though, guys, I'll get my words out. I've made it to this far. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts and comments are in the comments below. And I'm sure Cardboard will link you up to my Instagram page. Definitely check us out. And on that Instagram page, I will also be posting combo videos of these deck lists I post on Cardboard's YouTube channel. So definitely look out for them. And yeah, until the next Pendulum Takeover, guys, we'll see you again.